Hey, Redeemer family. Thanks for joining me for the Daily Word. Today, we're going to be in Luke chapter 1. So if you haven't read the passage, you should go do that now. Also, if you haven't clicked subscribe and that little bell, you should do that too. That way you don't miss anything that we do here at Redeemer. Now, before we get into the text, because this daily word is the first one in the book of Luke, let me give you some of the big ideas of this book as a whole. Now, Luke is volume 1 of a 2-volume work. Along with the book of Acts, these two books should be read together. You can especially see this in Luke chapter 1, verses 1 to 4, and in Acts chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. These two volumes make up 1/3 of the New Testament and cover from about 6 BC all the way to about 57 AD. So it's the longest New Testament history that we have. This is written for a man named Theophilus. And because he's called most excellent, it probably points to the fact that he was a prominent person within the Roman Empire, maybe part of Caesar's household that we see we see Paul ministering to as he talks about in Philippians chapter 1. So you've got the same author of both books, the same reader of both books, and the same purpose for both books given in Luke chapter 1, verse 4, which is to give certainty about Jesus. So as a book, you read Acts after the book of Luke, but as history, you read Acts after all 4 Gospels. So one more thing, here's Luke. He is the only non-Jewish writer of a book of the Bible, which is pretty cool, the only one. He was a physician who joined Paul in many of his missionary journeys, which, with Acts ending in Paul's imprisonment in Rome, both volumes are probably written sometime between 57 to 60 AD. So we've got the big idea, we've got the connection to the book of Acts, we've got the author, we've got the reader, we've got the date, and we've got the purpose. Now, since we celebrate these events every Christmas, the ones that we see in Luke chapter 1, I thought it was important for us to slow down in this section. So we're going to spend 3 days in Luke chapter 1. Now, I've organized today's teachings around 2 headings. The first one is introducing the book of Luke, verses 1 to 4, and the second one is introducing the family of John the Baptist, verses 5 to 25. There's a typo inside our reading plan. It should be verses 1 to 25. All the next ones we'll have that fixed, but we'll take a look at this now, verses 5 to 25. So, introducing the book of Luke, verses 1 to 4. Interesting fact about verses 1 to 4, in Greek it is one long sentence that balances the first part, verses 1 and 2, with the second part, verses 3 and 4. There's a balance there. So as you read that, notice the balance. In this text, Luke is stressing accurate history based on significant research. So as he begins in verses 1 and 2, he's not downplaying the other Gospels when he says what he says here. He's not talking about the Gospel writers. Matthew was already written. Matthew and Mark were already written when Luke writes. What Luke is talking about is people who started to write about the life of Jesus, but weren't really doing the best job at it. He writes, notice, based on eyewitness testimony, people who were familiar with the life of Jesus from the very beginning, which means, based on chapter 1 especially, he is likely speaking to Mary about the things that he conveys here. He investigated what he wrote to make sure that what he said was accurate. He was comprehensive. He was thorough. He was careful, so that he is creating a historical account of the life of Jesus. He does this again, verse 4, so that Theophilus and any other Gentile believer, any other believer, period, would know the exact truth about Jesus. That was his goal. And because he's writing under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, that is exactly what we have. Now, section 2, introducing the family of John the Baptist, verses 5 to 25. Think about it. 400 years of heavenly silence is broken when the angel Gabriel says, "Do not be afraid," to Zechariah, and then announces the birth and destiny of his son, who we call John the Baptist, meaning the John who baptizes people, not the John who started the Baptist denomination. That's not what that means. According to verses 25 and 26, these events took place about 6 months before Mary conceived. So John the Baptist is 6 months older than Jesus. Verses 15 and 17 are the key verses in this section, which not only explain who John the Baptist will be, but connect his divine mission to the Old Testament prophecies of the one who would announce the arrival of the Messiah. So if you want to read verses 15 and 17 and then go compare them to the Old Testament prophecies, you would go to Isaiah 40, verse 3, and you would go to Malachi chapter 4, verses 5 and 6. Now, like Ruth and Boaz in the days of the judges, Zechariah and Elizabeth, Mary and Joseph, the other people mentioned here in this chapter, these are the faithful remnant during the dark days of the Roman Empire's rule over Israel, during the dark days theologically of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. These would be the faithful remnant. What an honor it would have been for these two to be the parents of the last and greatest Old Testament prophets. Now, before we go, as you contemplate these things, consider that that's where we are. These are very dark days that we're facing, not only outside of the Church of Jesus Christ, but inside the church. These are very dark days. But what does that mean? We go with the flow, we go with the crowd, we go with what's popular? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We remain a faithful remnant to the Lord no matter what's happening here. In good days and bad, we stay faithful to him, come what may. Hey, hope that was helpful. See you next time for another Daily Word.